So first of all, on timber, this is way more than you need to know. But there is one of the problems in the book that you're assigned, and some of the terminology may come in helpful. And if you ever end up working where you're accounting for timber organizations, well, might come in handy. Okay, so so you have to think about timber. It's basically an inventory, but it's different than if you've got an inventory of iPads or something sitting on a shelf, because timber grows. Okay, it gets bigger every year. So your inventory is growing. So for accountants, they have to somehow figure out what to do with that, because your timber is getting big, your inventory is growing as it sits there. It's also different from oil and gas, our other natural resources, because timber tends to grow back. But it's not like a tomato or a corn plant. You could have it could take 25 to 100 years for a tree to grow back, so you could use it. And then, this is the same with cows too. There's a lot of different products that come out of a tree. You've got lumber, you've got pellets, you've got timber, you've got pulpwood for paper, all different things. Okay, so it's a little bit of complexity involved here. So it's different. There's different ways to buy or to acquire a timber, and you separate the timber from the land under it. You've got the timber is going to be a depletable resource. The land under it is not. So you purchase land with timber on it. It can be a purchase. Some companies tend to have a long-term lease, or some people just buy the timber. So you'd have to account for whatever happened. Okay, so the complications there, you purchase the land with the timber on it, you have to figure out, well, what's the value of this timber? So are you going to go out and measure every tree? What are you going to do? So what you do is you have someone come out and do what's called a site index. And I don't know if they use that term in the homework or not, but that's what they call it. And so the higher the site index, the more basic wood on the lot, the higher the value of the land. So, and obviously if you buy bare land and plant trees, that's going to be a lot longer time frame with a very, not a great cash flow on it. If you buy a parcel that has more trees on it that are bigger, then it's going to be more valuable. Okay, so larger trees are used for timber, and they're measured in board feet. I think, and board feet is like 1 inch thick by 12 in length and 12 in depth. And so that's your board foot. So you might see that in some of the problems. How many board feet did they produce this year? Okay, so that's one thing. What else have we got to look at here? To scale, when they talk about to scale, these are just a few terms that that's estimating the solid content of a log, and there's a lot of different rules to do that, but they end up having to estimate the volume. Okay, pulpwood, that's cut from the smaller trees used to make paper, and that's measured in terms of cords. So I don't know if any of the homework refers to cords, but that would be 4 by 4 by 8 feet, or 128 cubic feet. One just interesting thing on inventory, how wood inventory is different from other inventories. As the inventory sits in a wood lot, it actually gets lighter because it's drying out, because when the trees are first cut, they have a lot of moisture in them. And so you can't do anything by weight here, because wood shrinks as it dries out and it gets lighter. Just something that, just interesting facts about timber. Okay, so now, how do you measure the timber? Well, you send out a timber cruiser. That's the guy or the person who does the timber cruise. 100% cruise would be to measure every tree on the tract. That would not be a good idea. It would just be ridiculous. So they use statistical sampling techniques where they go to one little strip of the forest and they do what's called a timber cruise, and they will measure the timber in this strip, and then they will use their statistical analysis to expand that to the whole forest. They can do what's called stump cruising. This is after the forest has been cut. They can estimate the timber that was there based on the measurement of the stumps. And that also works when lumber has been stolen or illegally harvested. And that, believe it or not, does happen. So, okay, so let's see, what else do we have to talk about here to get you through the homework on this? Okay, I guess, yeah, okay, then, yeah, I have a lot more notes on this, but I don't think you really need much more to do the homework. But it's an interesting area, and if you ever do end up having to do accounting for timber, you have to, obviously, there's going to be a learning curve. Okay.